All right, everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Mahesh Chookolingo show. Let's get started. All right, thanks for popping in. Let's get a little quiet down there. All right, so welcome back to the show. Forgive my sunglasses. This is how I get into character. So I'm gonna try to continue with my consistency. That's my grandfather up there on the wall. His name was Patrick Chocolingo. You could look him up. It's my heritage and ancestry. He was a media mogul in the island of Trinidad and Tobago. So that is a little bit of my ancestry right there for you viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Um, so I want to go ahead and kind of just get into some stuff here on my timeline. Like I said, I'm just kind of going to be using my feed just to kind of give me some sort of a theme or observational commentary that I can kind of go through. So let's begin. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. See what the first thing that pops up on my feed is. This. What just happened there? What did she say? She said, let's go before they have guns. What the F? Looks like they followed. Denver couple followed home, slams door seconds before potential robbery. Okay, I think you all need to understand that obviously it was posted by Colian Noir, who is a advocate for the Second Amendment. He's also a YouTuber slash activist, and I notice there's a lot of these videos coming out, but that's good. I think it's good to have other opposing views and ideas and things that need to be considered when having a debate. Okay, so the problem we make is we look at all these horrendous mass shootings and things like that, and we think to ourselves that if we take away all guns, we're going to solve the problem. But we're not having a rational conversation about this. Okay, and the thing is, you got to be realistic about stuff, right? No politician wants to be irrelevant. They want to be relevant. They want votes. And whatever ways they got to do to get votes, they're going to do it. Second thing is, they manufacture consent, meaning that they take tragic events and they use them to create their platform, to push whatever agenda they have. And thirdly, the agendas that are being portrayed and being laid out by these so-called politicians is pretty obvious, right? The obvious conclusion is that we're slowly eroding away your rights and your freedoms because at the end of all of this debate and all of this argumentation between us, you and I, they're going to already have everything pulled out from under us. So you got to be careful of the slippery slope. The slippery slope meaning once you start chipping away at something, before you know it, it's all gone. And it will be your fault and my fault because we didn't take action. We didn't do anything about it. All we did was sit around and complain and vote the same people into office and not do anything about it. Being naive to the realities of our world that we live in is a detriment to all of us. We have to be cautious. Okay? I get that there are horrible things happening with guns around the world, such as war, mass shootings, even homicide. But at the same time, you got to also acknowledge that things good happen with guns, protection of property and personal selves, right? The protection of rights among citizens to bear arms so that they can arm and protect themselves against any form of tyranny. The ability to defend yourself before the police get there, because life and death is a matter of seconds, folks. So every tool necessary available at your disposal, you want to use it. Okay? So this is where the gun debate and the gun argument gets a little bit blurry. Now, the other proposal is that if we put certain measures in place to red flag laws and all the, first of all, we got to understand there's over 300 laws on the books already. And we got to look at countries that already have laws and see that they're still failing with all their laws because it's supposed to. It's going to fail because the end objective, if you can clearly follow the extrapolate where this is going, which I hope you can if you're listening, just use your imagination. It's supposed to fail because why? Politicians want to be relevant. And every time there's a tragedy, they are relevant because they come to the rescue. So follow with me for a second. Let's remove the little bit of cloudiness from your judgment and think about this clearly. What do you think the end result will be when these laws that are being passed do not get followed? When these laws don't get followed, guess what? The next logical conclusion for these politicians is, well, if you, the citizen of this country, want to be safe, we're going to have to ban all weapons to the public. Sounds familiar? Go back and do your history. Do your research on Nazi Germany and how Hitler rose to power and all the strategy and tactics that were used. Look at Russia. Look at the entire history of Russia, of how it got to where it is today and the strategies and tactics that were used during the era of Lenin and Mao. Guys, you guys need to pick up a book. You don't need a book. You have a phone, a computer in your hand. Do some research. Study the rise of communism and the tactics and measures that were used. Okay? There's a huge game at play right now around the world. And we got to be realistic. We got to be realistic about this. We cannot have a debate from a fantasy land level. What's going on right now is everybody has this utopia idea in their minds and they're arguing with each other, you and I, because somehow in your mind you're thinking if you vote a certain way, you're going to get this end result. That's not how this works. Voting doesn't get you the result. These conversations that we have gets you results because these conversations will lead to the proposal of policies that will help, whether they be economic, health-wise, education-wise, certification-wise, whatever we come up with. Those solutions are coming from the public, from us, not politicians. Politicians are just there to enforce, but unfortunately, today's society, politicians are manipulating certain situations, certain tragedies for their benefit, not ours. So let's come back to the topic and let's have a proper debate and discussion about it rather than just palming everything off to somebody else. All right, let's keep moving on from that subject.
In the video of the Sesame Place character completely ignoring two sweet little black girls.
Fuck yeah.
Originally, Sesame Place came out and said the costumes our performers wear sometimes make it difficult to see at lower levels.
Bullshit.
And sometimes our performers miss hug requests from guests.
Nope.
I call bullshit for a couple different reasons.
There you go.
First of all, in that video, you can see Rosita actually waving at the little girl saying no. Second of all, it is not that hard to see in those costumes.
Nope.
How do I know this? This is me in a former life. I also played Grover and Rosita at Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida. These costumes are actually puppets. The performer has control over when the mouth is open and when the mouth is closed through a mechanism that you hold in your hand. When you squeeze the mechanism, the mouth opens. When you let it go, the mouth closes. And when the mouth is open, you can actually see pretty well. To the point that when we did close-up meet and greets, our stage managers told us to keep the mouth slightly closed so they couldn't see our faces through the scrim. The other thing they teach you is eye focus. Since the character's eyes are up here, when you hold your head like you do in your everyday life, it looks like the character's looking straight up at the sky. But if you have your head bent down and it looks like the character's looking at the guests, you're looking straight down at the ground where children stand. So what this actually sounds like is a systemic issue within Sesame Place.
Fuck
This
yeah.
is not Sesame Street because the park actually licenses out these characters to use in the park. Again,
Okay, so I get that there's issues like this around the world. I guess the reason I don't take it seriously is because I'm a firm believer in not being a victim. I think it's very important that when we experience things like this, which we will, no matter what ethnic group or what background you come from, you will experience some form of prejudice or racism in your lifetime. And I think part of the appeal that I had looking at the conservative argument, or the what you all out there are calling right wing, which is not. It's not. It's just that's the label you put on it. Just like pretty much people are labeling all this extreme left stuff as liberal, which is not either. So that there's a lot of that mislabeling going on right now in the world. But coming back to the topic at hand, racism. I think it's important that we teach our children that just because the world is full of assholes, for whatever reason, it should not deter you or stop you from going ahead with doing what you have to do in life. That adversity actually works in your favor because it teaches you compassion, it teaches you tolerance, it teaches you diversity, and it teaches you that, you know what, this world is full of some bad people and good people. And once you see it from that perspective, you you deal with things from a pragmatic stance, a pragmatic approach. Okay? So I just want you to consider that. This is why I don't get too involved in the race argument, because I have traveled to India and I have seen prejudices at so many different levels, from caste system to what type of language someone speaks, to what village they come from, to what tribe they may have been a part of. It's insane to me. I go to Trinidad and Tobago, which is predominantly Indian and blacks, African and Indian descent, and there's a clash there. There's racism between Africans and I should say blacks, because Africans is from Africa. So let me get that clear. Caribbean blacks, okay, are usually very racist towards Indians, Indo Caribbean people, and vice versa. Indo Caribbean people tend to show prejudice towards Caribbean blacks. So there's that dynamic right now. Now, again, this is why I believe this is fabricated and manufactured, because when you start creating this mental division of labels inside of countries around the world, it only serves the politicians. Because at the end of the day, whatever country you live in, you are a citizen of that country. You're entitled to just as much rights as everyone else, regardless of the Constitution or not. Because it's a divine right. It's a right from God. Once you get your mind into that mindset, that your rights are given to you from God, a divine source, no man can take that from you. And this is the American ideal. It's the very foundation of what we're trying to spread when we talk about the Constitution, and push the idea that our rights are divine. They have no right to be taken away, regardless of what laws you write on the books, what policies you put in place, what oppressive measures you try to take. You will always spawn and rise up out of it like a phoenix from the ashes, because you have to believe in power. You have to believe in the human desire and will to survive, to thrive, to push, to evolve, to rise above. So I didn't get too hung up on this story because I felt like, yeah, yeah, I've witnessed it and been a part of it, and but at the same time, I want to be empowered, and I want to be empowered to know that I have all these rights that were divinely given to me by God himself or herself, or whichever way you look at God, universe, right? That I have a right to figure this thing out called life, and I don't have to worry about what somebody thinks about me. I can keep thriving, keep moving forward. This is the thought process and the mindset we have to get to if you want to solve racism. Teach children the truth about this life. Yes, there are going to be some assholes out there who step on you, try to hold you back, try to do whatever, but you need to see them like a mosquito. You swat them away. And this mindset that's trying to creep its way back into the United States right now and around the world, that somehow if I'm a particular race or ethnic group or whatever, I'm being oppressed, I'm being held back. No. Your belief in that is what's holding you back. Your belief in participating in that and giving it power is what keeps it going. So you now, as a human being, you have all the power in the world. You have strength, you have courage, you have tenacity, you have the ability to push through problems. Whenever you're confronted with such things, Don't let it belittle you. Don't let it bring you down. You rise above it. And that's the message I want you to take away from this. Yes, this crap happens, especially with police, but you also got to learn about de escalation. You may not agree with someone when it's happening to you, but you got to get creative and think, how do I de escalate a situation? So that when the time comes that I have to tell the judge or tell someone, this is what was done to me, I have no actions from my end that shows that I acted inappropriately or that I tried to attack or anything. And turn your cameras on. The only way we're going to fight this is with economic policies and with filming everything and exposing these things like they're doing right now. But don't let it define us as a citizens, as a country, group of people in this country, in any country. Don't let those issues define you and your opportunities that are presented to you. Go 100% in, and don't ever let that be an obstacle to you. Because at the end of the day, people who do that, they're only hurting themselves as long as you don't engage with it. All right? So eliminate that thought process. I really do believe this whole CRT movement is kind of a racism in itself because it wants to instill that in you, that you're a victim and you need someone to do something for you, to give you your freedom, to give you your power back. You don't need anything or anyone other than God. That's it. So keep that in mind as we push through as a nation through this whole thing. On to the next one.
156 for Paddy Pimblett.
Everything going wrong with America right now is a production of high gas oil price. Yeah, whatever.
The Samaritan thing, listen, I was trained when I was at the Justice Department in firearms, and I was trained in defensive firearm training. It is very hard to hit a moving target. It is hard for people that are trained to hit a moving target. It is very lucky that Good Samaritan hit that moving target in that way. And he had a gun permit, but he wasn't supposed to be in the mall with a gun.
Okay, do you see what's going on? That's kind of what I was talking about earlier about that video we saw with the couple that tried to rob the other couple in Colorado. But this is what we are calling leftist ideology or leftist. It's insanity. This logic means that you're not willing or you're creating a barrier because you don't want to set up a debate. You just want to create relevance for the policies that are being pushed right now from the administrations that are in office, that they don't want you to have. This is called manufacturing consent. They're manufacturing your perception so that you keep the conversation within a certain parameter of what they dictate. And this is what we have to get out of, and this is what we need to address when we speak to each other. Stop allowing people to dictate the parameters of the conversation. We don't need to allow them to put up boundaries around the conversation and say, this is what the conversation is. No, it's not. Conversation is bigger than what she's talking about. A lot bigger. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much on gun control because you get the idea what I'm aiming for.
If my new video names has upset you,
Tom McDonald, baby.
There's a few things I'd like you to consider. One, there's no sense in being upset considering how little I give a about your fragile little girl feelings. Two, maybe the reason you're upset about the song is because the song is about you. Three, why would you be upset about a song that encourages free thinking, demonstrates free speech, promotes unity, and empowers people who feel victimized? While the songs you listen to glorify violence, degrade women, romanticize depression, endorse drug use, praise wasting money, and overall just sort of encourage poor moral standard. Four, it doesn't make any sense to be offended by a song. It didn't cheat on you, it didn't beat you up. If I see something on the TV I don't like, I change the channel and move on.
Exactly.
I don't spend the next week telling every other moron on the internet how upset I am. Five, songs called names. Maybe you're upset because the name people use for you wasn't included. I'm sorry, there was just no room in the song to fit in stupid little ass mother. My new video names is out now. Watch the video, download the song on iTunes or Amazon.
It's refreshing to have people like this making music. There's a whole genre industry of musicians coming up who are writing conscious hip hop and conscious content because there's a thirst for that. There's a thirst for this type of content. I don't know if you saw his music video. Go back and watch it. He debuts a video like every Friday. He's been on a roll. He's doing great, man. More power to you, Tom. Love his music. And everything he's saying about what he's doing, it's like, if you don't like my content, go somewhere else. This whole this goes back to this leftist ideology, this subversive woke culture that has subverted and implanted itself at universities in the early 1980s, in the American universities, and infected the minds of all these people who went on to be professors and teachers in the United States. And they're passing this subversive mindset onto the upcoming citizens of our country. And it's destroying our nation because we have a lack of self-esteem as a nation. We don't value ourselves as a nation. We're always putting ourselves down as a nation. We're always acting as if somehow we should be guilty as a nation, when in reality we need to be uplifting ourselves and pointing ourselves in a direction as a country so that we better ourselves and the rest of the world. So this is what is meant by American exceptionalism. And it's talked about in such a negative way from the left-wing pundits on MSNBC, CNN, and all these other organizations that are trying to paint this picture that being patriotic is evil, being a nationalist is wrong, unless it's Ukraine, being someone who loves and cares about his country and his fellow countrymen is a bad thing. When did this happen? When did that switch happen? Meanwhile, Russia and China, they're building their people up, right? They make sure that their males get masculine training, go through the military. They're building an entire army over there on that side of the world of people who love their country, right? People who love and feel proud about their military. Meanwhile, over here in America, we're just falling to pieces. So much self-doubt, not loving ourselves, destroying ourselves with drugs, destroying our borders, destroying our economy, destroying our own selves. We don't love ourselves at all, that we have to change the identity of what we are from what we were born as. There's a lot of mental health issues in America. America is collapsing. And that's why these artists, like myself and Tom and everybody else, are trying to wake us up so that we realize that our potential is infinite. It's maximum. It's the highest thing that you could ever want for your country. If you think a certain way, that's the outcome we get. So we're trying to spark controversy and spark the thinking brain in our nation so that we start talking and act like little neurons and converse with each other and realize that if we want a better America, we're going to have to see that in our minds, talk about it with each other, be proud of ourselves, be grateful for how far we have come as a nation. Look at, we came from what? In 200 years, we came from a nation of slavery and Native Americans fighting wars with colonizers and all this stuff. We came from all of that to being able here where I can turn a camera on and talk to you and start a small business from my house. This is what we're talking about when we say having gratitude, not being a victim, focusing on the things you want to see, promoting ideas and creative projects that uplift and boost the consciousness of mankind so that we can think things through and have a debate and use our free speech to come up with solutions and ideas that make ourselves better. That's what the Constitution is about, folks. I know there's some issues and some kinks we got to work out, but we're doing it, aren't we? God bless America. We are doing it. You got to acknowledge everything. You can't reject or negate anything. That is a Marxist tactic. That is called subversion. Us as a nation, we have been subverted mentally, psychologically. And now we're being told to see the dollar in a negative light, to see the US in a negative light. And that's been a slow grooming process that started years ago, folks. This is not new. I read a lot of history and I read a lot of books. Well, audiobooks, I cheat. So my brain's full with all this context of the entire globe and the history and the wars between the KGB, the CIA, the Israeli. I mean, I got it. I see the whole picture. So that's why I try to take little snippets and piece it together for you so you can kind of understand what's going on right now. Anyway, let's go into the next video. Love trucks. Ring doorbell.
I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe, and I dated it Thanksgiving 1995, and I put it in my wallet and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff, but then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going $10 million on, I think it was Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah.
Yeah.
So you visualize yourself visualization works if you work hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can't just visualize and then, go eat a sandwich.
That's right. Jim Carrey, man. Jim Carrey is pretty cool. I don't think I've ever met him in real life or anything, but I do know he comes to a town in Iowa that I grew up in called Fairfield, Iowa, where there's a movement or a university out there called the Maharishi University of Management. And part of the curriculum of that school is meditation. And Jim Carrey himself has been out here. I live in Des Moines, Iowa now, well, close to it. I'm actually in a town called Carlisle. But he's right. And this is kind of the same theme I'm trying to come back to in all the topics I talk about. In everything I'm saying is that the key we have to get to as a species is we have to understand that we manifest everything, right? And we manifest it. See, thought is the first bubble of idea. And through that idea, it acts out through our mouth and through our hands, right? So the mechanics of it is like that. So if you're constantly telling yourself, like he made a clear vision in his mind, I'm going to have a check for acting service because he's passionate about being an actor. I mean, he was going through a lot to get there, and he did a lot of work. He didn't give up. And he wrote himself a check, and he visualized it, and he said, I'm getting this, and he felt it in his core being. And I can feel the pause raising on my hand right now because I can feel it. See, once you visualize and you feel it in your core, in your spirit, in your soul, in your stomach, you feel it. You can see it. Your natural tendency, without you even thinking about it, you're going to start working in that direction. You're going to start propelling yourself in a particular momentum. You may not get that exact thing, but you sure as hell may come close to it, or maybe even surpass it, depending on circumstances, right? But you have to visualize it. I have a vision for where I see America going. All of us do. And through the interaction and talking that we all are doing with each other, all of it, we're getting a better understanding of the world we are developing and creating and all of the different moving pieces that are coming together. So I say to you, if you're listening right now and you're making some excuse about why you can't do something that you are passionate about, stop that conversation in your head right now. Shut yourself down. And realize one thing, if you don't change the conversation in your head about yourself and the world that you're seeing around you, the results that you're getting is your fault. I know that sounds a little bit hard to hear for some people, but the results you get in your life, no matter how hard or how easy it is, are based on your attitude. Literally. And an attitude means, what are you choosing to focus on mentally? Like when you close your eyes and you're dreaming and daydreaming and thinking about stuff, are you thinking about you with your nice life, or walking in the forest, or living in a log cabin somewhere, painting a painting, or swimming in an ocean, or living on an island, or making a movie, or writing a script, or writing a book, or working on your favorite cars? I mean, whatever your passion is, or your dream is, or your idea is, you have total power over it in that respect. Now, you do not have power in how it gets there. That's the other thing. You got to have that balance between letting go, but also envisioning yourself in the direction you want to go. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to close this video off. It's going to be a short video today. I appreciate you tuning in. Again, guys, please support my channel. Help me out. Send information my way. Anything you want to talk about, send it to me, and we'll discuss it. We'll make a episode about that. Also, I'm interested in doing interviews. I'm trying to also learn the different formats, conversational styles that we can use. I am working on another one right now. I'm editing with a friend of mine who did an interview with me. His name is Jim. I'll go ahead and post that up probably later on Sunday night. But you all take care. Thanks for watching, and blessings to you all.